Of the matter is that regardless of what happened in Parliament yesterday, she's still the State Minister for Housing and she's still a Member of Parliament, and we're talking about Persis Namuganza. Now, this, of course, has been a very interesting issue right from March 2022, and looking at how the voting went yesterday in a tally of 356 votes, you did have 348 voting to have the minister censured. 5 MPs voted no, with 3 in absentia. And of course, the censured ministers do not necessarily lose their seats, although the Constitution envisages that the minister against whom such a motion is carried on resigns. What precedent does this set for the country is a big question mark. What next is another big question mark. Well, we do have Sarah Birete, who has joined us, political analyst, and she has talked to us about this conversation before here in Morning at NTV. Now the aftermath is here. You said it wouldn't happen. It has happened. We're also joined by Captain Francis Babu, senior citizen, and also one who has lenses that have gone through
I need new ones.
Different
I need new ones. These ones are getting a little bit like my age.
Right. Okay, so let me start with Sarah Birete. Let me first pick it up from the headlines, actually. In the Daily Monitor, how Namuganza talked her way into trouble. The other daily is saying Namuganza censured, how MPs voted President Museveni to decide her fate. What's behind the headlines?
You know, for the record, I want first state that the conduct of Honorable Namuganza, even in the previous parliament, was not any different from what she has been doing in the 11th parliament. So to accuse her of good conduct, it would be a wrong accusation for Honorable Persis Namuganza. She has never exhibited that good conduct as a minister. So having stated that, has Parliament acted properly, or what is behind the headline? Some people have described the fight as personal fight. The grounds for censure include abuse of office, incompetence, among others. But when you go to the ground of abuse of office, it's defined as an act or omission of an official while in office for personal purposes or personal benefit. So does the conduct of Namuganza warrant that accusation of abuse of office to its detail? Yes, she could have violated rules of parliament, but is that what her office is about? So I think that the ground really was shaky. What was clear in that censure report was that Namuganza violated rules of procedure of parliament. I wish the grounds were as explicit as that. In my view, that's the only ground they could prove. May ban bad conduct, which is not news to Namuganza. So does that then warrant, because that's likely to determine the appropriate action. Because the article says after censure by more than half of the MPs, which has happened, the president will take appropriate action. That appropriate action must be in line with the alleged offense. So what is the alleged offense in this matter? Violating rules of procedure of parliament. What is the interest of the appointing authority in his ministers? What if it's different? What is appropriate action? The president can decide to warn the minister. Say, this has happened, this is how you conducted yourself, I advise you not conduct yourself like this. Previously, the 2 ministers that were censured, Honorable Jim Muhweza and Sam Kutesa, they were solid grounds of censure. And Honorable Babu could have been in one of those parliaments. They were solid grounds of abuse of office. It's not like this censure. That's why some people think it's a personal vendetta. If you look at the change of manner of voting, a roll call, when the rules say by ballot, secret ballot.
Yeah, I mean, if they voted the speaker, deputy speaker.
I know there can be an exception, but there is also...
That was more important.
No. But also there could be some eye somewhere who wanted to see how people voted.
Some CCTV camera?
Yes, some CCTV camera that was watching, capturing how individuals voted. Because the stories coming from that house are not so much dignified in terms of conduct. And the decorum of that house is not just about Namuganza. It's about the leadership, it's about their conduct, it's about intimidation and which hand of people that don't agree with them.
Let me allow you to take a breather and turn to Captain Babu. What's behind the headlines for you? What do you see behind? Past, present and future.
First and foremost, thank you very much for having us this morning. I hope everybody is quite happy there. I will not go with the newspapers and speculation. Well, let's go to the solid facts, what happened. Parliament has a right to censor a minister.
Yes.
That's within the law. And they censor the minister because they want to send a message to the executive that your people are not behaving according to the normal etiquettes of Parliament. Now, when that is done, which they did yesterday, you then look at the numbers. You said 348?
Yes.
But there are 529. What happened to the other group? So let's look at that one also. Secondly, let's listen to what some of the opposition members are also saying. Then we go into the rumor-mongering meal, I call it, where people are saying, there is a difference between people within Parliament, their behaviors. Then it comes to a point, our culture. How do we behave as African as compared to the standard new Western culture that we've copied? How does a person behave? And I think this is something that we must think very carefully.
Let's start with that culture point. So are you trying to say that because the minister is a princess, therefore she has the leeway to behave as she pleases?
No, I'm not saying that. All I am saying is that there are things within our culture which are norm, which are not norm in the Western culture, the way they behave. For example, the body language, the noises we make, the way we behave sometimes could be offensive to one person to another. Now, the reason I brought that cultural point is that she's being censored because of her behavior, behavioral. How do you measure that one? That is up to the committee that decided that she should be censored. Now, that committee also...
It's a character censorship.
Yes, it was a character censorship, not the original committee accusation of Naguru and Nakawa, whatever it was. So the point comes now, and it brings us to another point. What is the relationship between the executive arm of government and our parliament in Uganda? What is the historical differences between those two? Now, a lot of people don't spend time to think that there is the parliament in its historical development all over the world. There has been a pull and push, a love-hate relationship between parliament and the executive arm of government. To make it even worse, we copied the British Parliament, which is started from the Magna Carta up to now. It is a long history. I won't go into that one. That will be another day. We now have what we call Parliament, which has also got a presidential system of government. So we have two models. We have members of Parliament who are ministers. We have those who are not ministers, who are ex-officials of Parliament. And so we have a very interesting system. Now, the reason why when we're in the CA we put there the censor, because there are three, by the way. The president can be impeached, the minister can be censored, and the member of Parliament can be recalled by the constituents. So we put those there, sanctions, to make sure that we put these people in line with what is going on. So, in this case, I saw somebody saying, oh, well, it's because the ministers were too powerful. No, we put there as a sanction so that we could control the two. Now, in my sincere opinion, the basis of this censorship is a bit weak. I wish there was something, it was the Nakawa Naguru argument.
Yes.
There would have been a better...
It would have been a better
ground.
And would have set precedents for others.
This argument about behavior, our ladies behave in a certain way.
Different cultures.
The English,
a huge cultural country.
In my opinion, I expect you to behave in a certain way as a Ugandan. So maybe the way she was doing things is is the way she thought people would think, women, for example.
But it's
Let me
not.
give you-
It's not the first time.
Let me give you an example here.
Everyone knows that
No,
that is her conduct.
No, women have
it's
been
not started
fighting.
in this
No,
parliament.
Women have been fighting for their right in society. And to get this right has not been very easy.
Do we need drama?
Maybe.
I don't think so.
No. When you talk about Kameza and, Kameza, Kameza?
Yes, I
Yes. You talk about Kameza, you take women walking without bras, and, these are things that have been done to try and fight for women's rights. Now, some women in government and in that, sometimes have to show that their presence.
Some aggression,
Some sort of a presence,
Okay.
It might not be aggression. It might be methods of approach. I have seen ladies go accuse men of all sorts of things. But Lene, that's said and done. Basically, I'm talking about really culture and behavior. If you are censoring somebody on culture and behavior, it's very unfortunate. And in my opinion, that vote was on behavior. And the people who also voted, all of them, their behavior is not that good either. so I've been hearing I've been hearing all sorts of things, But we cannot determine members of parliament on their behavior. The only people who can help us with that are the voters.
Okay.
So, in my sincere opinion, Madam, first of all, there is the point that it's a woman. Really, a women group can pick it up and say they are against women. Number two, our culture, our methods of body language and the way we behave. And number three, and lastly, how does somebody behave? How do they behave, in Parliament? Now, then the last one, which unfortunately I have not talked about, is the differences between people, the small arguments between I like you, I don't like you, that kind of thing, happening in our parliament. And I don't like you because you are like this, I don't like you because, you are tall, you are short. Those are sentiments. Now, we are having that problem, and I hear it quite often between people. Marriages, boyfriends, girlfriends, really it is disgusting. Those are not things we should bring out in Parliament. Those are things we should talk about when we're having a cup of tea in the canteen.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe Sarah can let us know how we can be able to deal with such issues without bringing them to the limelight. But you've talked about those that voted. I just want to pick some of the comments of those that voted and the behaviors that you speak of. Violation of rules, you do have the chairperson for the select committee, Mwine Mpaka, saying the matter raised in the interviews was obnoxious, reckless, insufferable, beyond the pale, blah, 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 blah. It was an attack on the person of the speaker and the parliament without due regard to the rules of procedure, the protected status and the procedures of redress, the applicability of privilege and decorum of parliament. You do have breach of conduct, which is a statement coming in from Mr. Charles Onen, vice chairperson of rules, privileges and discipline committee. The committee found that by making derogatory statements about parliament, the conduct of Honorable Namuganza amounted to gross misconduct and misbehavior. But they make comments such as those outside parliament. Okay, you do have Amos John Okot, who is the Agago North County, the mover of the censure motion, saying the decision to censure a minister is not a decision that should be taken lightly. It is far-reaching consequences on the minister, his or her family, cabinet, appointing authority, and the country at large. Now, let's go back to the appointing authority. This is not the first time we have seen her of such conduct. We all know her of such conduct, but yet she's been appointed as minister, even in light of that information. And the parliament was the vetting, they did the vetting. So why then now do they choose to unvet, for lack of better words?
Well, like the comments confirm, Namuganza was censured for bad character, which is a public secret. Her previous behavior in the 10th Parliament was unbecoming. The only difference is that the leadership in the 10th Parliament had a bit of magnanimity. They could not go after petty issues during the official conduct of Parliament. That's how Namuganza was never censured. But she would attack the Speaker in the House and outside the House. But the Speaker was able to rise above that and he did not go personal with her. When you look at the grounds, it's purely somebody being censured for bad character. The unfortunate bit is that Namuganza is an elected MP. And maybe a bit of a rejoinder to what Honorable Captain Babu has presented on recall of MPs. The amendment ushering in multi-party politics broke the ability to recall MPs under Article 83.7. MPs can only be recalled in the movement system. So in the multi-party system, we cannot recall any MP. And there's a dilemma on that when it comes to the power of the people. So she's an MP. She has violated rules of Parliament. You can only censure her, and if the president removes her from cabinet, she can only become a backbencher. How will Parliament make sure that she abides by the rules? I think for me this is the dilemma in all this censure on a person's bad character. I think this is something. Although the character is unbecoming, but it could have been ignored. What are the priorities of Parliament? In the 10 years of the new, 10 months, of the new leadership of Parliament, we have seen 3 personal fights. One was Honorable Zake, removed from the commission, and now the Commission of Parliament is not properly constituted, and some of their decisions can be challenged in court. The second personal fight was Namuganza, and maybe that's why there was need for a roll call, so that the CCTV camera eye can see who is with them. And the emerging other fight is Joel Senyonyi. What is the problem? Why is Parliament going personal? And who will be next? If in 10 months of a new leadership, you can go personal with 3 MPs, who is safe? Who is next? Is it okay with the citizens? Are these the priorities of the country? Are the leaders abusing their office? Because abuse of office is an act or omission. Why are you occupying a public office for personal purposes or personal benefit? So as you propagate personal fights as the head of the legislative assembly, aren't you abusing your office?
Okay, that's a question. Are you not abusing your office? We're going to leave it to you to ponder on it. We take a break and we return shortly. On to the 8 o'clock hour, and we're still turning on your world in regards to the aftermath of the vote casted yesterday in Parliament. That is in censuring State Minister for Housing, Pacis Namuganza. My name is Priscilla Regina Naloga, and of course that is what we're tabling in our Kickstarter this morning. But we want to have a recap of that with our newsroom and the story that they did in this regard. Take a look.
Alupo Jessica Rose Appel. Honorable Namuganza lowered the esteem of Parliament in the eyes of the public, belittled the presiding officers of the House, its members, and consequently the people of Uganda who elected those leaders in line with their constitutional mandate. Her conduct brought Parliament and its members into disrepute and breached paragraph 5 of the Code of Conduct in Appendix 5 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament. I vote yes.
Right Honourable Speaker, for purposes of bringing back sanity in this House and respect for you as our Right Honourable Speaker and rules of procedure of this august House, I vote yes.
I vote yes.
I'm not voting yes or no.
One of the reasons as to why I'm here is service delivery. I want to vote no, a big no.
Those who have abstained are 3. Those who have voted no are 5. And those who have voted yes to the motion are 348. I hereby declare that the motion has been carried, that Honorable Namuganza Pacis be censured, and as required under Rule 109 Sub-Rule 13 of our rules of procedure. I will inform the President accordingly within 24 hours.
Dealing with those other ministers, because there are many, those who would take what can Parliament to do. Your work is only advisory. You cannot do much. They should know that you cannot just attack Parliament, go against the rules of procedure, go against the Constitution, belittle Parliament, and then go away with it. For me, it is a lesson for all the ministers.
You know, in this world, humility and working together with people is very important. Honorable Francis Namuganza, she was insinuating that all members of Parliament are not sober, and she thinks she's the only one who is sober. Therefore, since she used to undermine all members of Parliament, and she refused to work with other members of Parliament, you remember she was invited several times to appear before the committee, and she used to ignore and insult everybody.
We knew she has been meeting the committees, different committees, and the committees have wrote a report, some either biased or not, but her not appearing to defend herself in front of everybody in the floor of Parliament, it was another sign of respecting the House, and that's why I voted yes.
That Museveni cabinet, I will participate in reducing it to half, because many of the ministers there are useless. In fact, tomorrow, even if they bring another one without a reason, I will censure. Because first, we should never have had a big cabinet. Two, we should never have had a cabinet of useless people. But we ended up with Parliament's participation. They are the ones who vetted Namuganza and passed her. So I'm just helping Parliament to correct its own mistake. They must be very careful in the future.
The interpretation of those hugs, we'll leave that to you, but we just want to show you that perhaps the continued fight between the executive, legislature and judiciary is something that is being unmasked at the end of the day and out of all this. Now, in the Daily Monitor, they give us a list of 8 ministers that have faced this wrath before, and we just want to show you the difference between what they did and what happened yesterday. Let's start with Sam Kutesa, economic planning in 1999. I'll have you, Captain Babu, tell us.
Yeah, it was to do with the NHAS at the airport. They claimed that they stripped Uganda Airlines of its assets, and they sort of implicated him in that. Of course, he denied, but Parliament went ahead and censored him.
All right, and then Major General Jim Muhwezi.
Jim Muhwezi was to do with his past, especially ISO and all that, and being in. And when they called him at one time, he also came and answered them, and they thought his behavior, the way he was answering, was not the best.
And the Mera investment.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's Mera investment and so on. So all these, they had grounds.
They had grounds.
Whether right or wrong,
yes,
but they were grounds.
All right, let's look at Saida Bumba when they were still leading energy.
Saida Bumba had signed an agreement that was not good for the country, and she told Parliament that she did not read. So the same saga faced then the chief advisor, legal advisor of government, who is the Attorney General, Chiduma Kuya. They were in the same caught up with the same mess of signing an agreement that had dire consequences for the country and wrongly committing the country.
Okay.
And Kawakumba Masko had to do with UBC masks as a Minister for Information.
But sometimes when you don't have your glasses on, reading the papers to sign can be very difficult.
Yes, but you have people to verify.
You have assistants.
Right? When you're saying treaties being signed, there's like 5 other people that have gone through this paper for you to sign.
These glasses, you should do it every year.
Every year.
Yeah, if you don't do it,
you should have advised then.
Okay.
Okay, so where does this leave us in terms of separating for Ugandans, actually, because Ugandans don't really understand what is being drawn here. In my assessment, yes, it's character assassination that we are faced with right now in the case of Francis Namuganza, not character not duty assassination, because as Captain had rightly said, if it had been about the Naguru Nakawa land, that would have been
I think every Ugandan wishes
very good ground
that Namuganza.
So the corruption is put under the papers and character is put on top to shield.
Yeah, of course, also that shows the incompetence of Parliament. There was a mess with the Naguru land giveaway of Bonanza. There was a select committee that investigated that giveaway, I don't think they reached good conclusions, given that the committee never interfaced with the president, yet most of the responses of the minister were referring to the president. Previously, parliaments, parliament committees would interface with the president whenever his name would be mentioned in matters they were investigating. This culture has gone away. So you have two ministers, Honorable, now the current IGG, Bet Kamya, and the Honorable Persis Namuganza, saying they acted on the instructions of the president. But you do not see a committee interfacing with the president. So what conclusions did you reach at? If Namuganza was censured for the Naguru land, all Ugandans would be celebrating. But the mixed reactions is because of the petty ideas. You're censuring somebody who is an elected MP for her character, which is not in respect with the rules of parliament. What are you going to do when they act as an MP and they still exhibit bad character?
Unfortunately, she's not the only one in the hot soup right now. You do have Honorable Joel Sanyonyi, most recently, with, of course,
I wonder whether he's hot or ice.
Yes, Honorable Sanyonyi being told he's a lazy boy for his, according to, the speaker, under performance with Kosase. You do have Honorable Zake, also an indiscipline issue, regardless of the issue that he was trying to floor on the parliament in regards to the abductions. So I continue to see more character assassination to others that are not pleasing to the speaker. Should I say that? Because instead of focusing on the duties and performances of these people or what they're trying to say, they're focusing on how they're saying it.
No, I think for me, by the time we conclude the year, we are just 10 months in this leadership of parliament. By the time they make more 2 months, we are likely to see a character of, like in primary school when you have a child of a rich person and who is not well mannered. And then because of the people who depend on them for sweets and other goodies, whoever he wants to beat, then these people go get the other child, then the child of a rich person is able to beat. I think that's more of the image that is emerging in this house.
Okay, so let me ask Captain Francis. So Persis is being castigated for her words and
her behavior.
And her behavior.
Yes.
Then why can't we castigate the Speaker of Parliament for her words also?
Let me put it this way. My sincere belief is that Ugandan leaders and politicians have diluted leadership. They have diluted it to an extent that we are now getting very interesting characters in positions. One of the members of parliament just said something a few minutes ago. There are so many ministers that even if we brought somebody without any reason, I would vote them out. Now, that gives you an impression that people voted for different reasons, not even the reasons that were given. There is a pull and push between executive and the parliament, and there is condescending attitude from the executive towards parliament. Parliament fights back, and therefore you have this chaos. In my sincere opinion, and your question is a very good one, is that we are talking about symptoms. We're talking about symptoms of a thing which is bigger in terms of leadership. When you hear that the plenary, when it is fully constituted, somebody will only get 2 minutes to speak.
Yeah.
And then you have a parliament of 529 in our administrative cost, which we can't afford. Then you have a cabinet of 80 people who are ministers. And then you have advisors. So the whole leadership, I am sorry, and I would like to contend that we have diluted leadership. It is a shaming that most of us know the truth, and we don't want to talk about it. And whoever is behind all this, time has come to have a mindset change.
Okay.
Now, the mindset change will come this way. First of all, look at the whole model. Is it working? Are these the symptoms that what we are having is not working? The whole system. Do we need to sit down and review the whole constitution, for example? I contend that time has come to review the constitution, to to look at leadership. How do we build leadership in this country? To me, what has happened today, what happened yesterday, is bigger than Namuganza.
Okay. There's another angle to what happened yesterday, that perhaps it's a cover-up of Uganda Airlines and the other things that have been unearthed by the Auditor General's report. So perhaps it's a diversion to give Ugandans an attention to something else while they don't pay attention to
I saw
what that was uncovered, because it came after the omnibus. If it had come before, it would have been pushed in there. But something else has been unearthed within just 7 days.
I saw a remark of the Right Honourable Speaker when she was saying the shame on Kosase. And then I was like, but this is the immediate vice chair of the previous Kosase. And when she was an acting chairperson, she presided over 1 report in 6 months, meaning that at most she would have done 2 reports in a year. And she knows what it takes, having sat in Kosase for 5 years. But here she is, you know, practicing open double standards and playing to the gallery in her failure to table the airline report. And unfortunate for her, the new report of the Auditor General raises more glaring inquiries about the running of Uganda Airlines. So what she's doing, shielding the previous Uganda Airlines report, is like attempting to cover pregnancy with hands. And you think people will not see it?
We will see it.
That's what she's doing.
Perhaps she'll try a bigger dress.
I can see the smart ones.
Okay, as we bring a conclusion to this conversation, how can we have a parliament that works better to fulfill their duty to Uganda?
I think that that honourable member who said I'll vote if they brought these ministers one after
anybody they bring, I'll vote out.
I think he's giving you he's giving you the cue. One, the cabinet is too big. Two, what quality of people do you have in cabinet? What quality do you have as members of parliament? Our voters, are they voting correctly? The size of really this country with its budget and all that, I think a maximum of 150 members of parliament of good quality would do very well. Yeah. And we should stop pretending. The good people will never beg. But by the way, have you ever realized people who are really in control of leadership, and they would not go for this kind of thing. So we need to review our mindset and accept the person who is good. Even in class, when you went to exam, somebody was number 1 and somebody was last. But here we seem to bring the last to be the ones to lead us. Now, there was somebody in 1900 who wrote that the conscience of leadership will one time reach, at the end of the day, we shall have morons as our leaders. Now, if we don't change now, and we ask the people who came with a fundamental change to actually change the whole set, we're not going to go anywhere. Now, the symptom is not what happened. This is something very small, but it's going to get even worse. You are talking about Kosase, you are talking about the Bank of Uganda. What you have not talked about is that people are accusing those committees of being corrupt. Yeah, that money exchanged hands. There was one of Civil Aviation Authority, 1.4 billion. There was these are rumors, but they are in the system. Is it true? If it is not true, it's unfortunate that people are being unfair. But if it is true, then even the committees we are talking about have got their own problems. Are people using parliament to fight their battles? Is somebody using parliament to fight so-and-so, using a committee to fight so-and-so? Is it there? If that is so, then we've got to look at our leadership a little bit more seriously.
Okay. Captain, what you talk about is futuristic. We're going to have to wait until 2026 to change that
we
parliament.
Can do it now.
So let me turn to Ms. Birete. In regards to present-day realities, how do we have, what advice do you have to the parliament to be more focused on things that concern the general Ugandan than petty differences here?
Well, my message to all MPs is that the power they have should be exercised in the interest of the people, in consideration of people's values, wishes, and aspirations. When they go to Parliament and they use the space to do their personal fights and battles, it is abuse of office to whoever is engaged in. And a member of the public can take that matter to court. It is abuse of office. Parliament should not be used for personal vendetta, for scoring personal goals, and eliminating personal enemies or people who don't agree with you. That's why it is a parliament of different political shades. You're not supposed to agree in that parliament. So my call to the MPs, especially to the leadership of parliament, is that stop abuse of office, stop wasting taxpayers' money on petty fights, concentrate on issues that concern the people, like the economy, like kidnaps and abuse of human rights, like the shrinking space where you have opposition that cannot address any meeting. Even a retreat in Jinja was blocked by opposition, like people abusing the constitution in open daylight and you don't do anything when your function is to protect the constitution. Those are matters that should concern parliament and where taxpayers' money should be spent on.
All right, thank you so much. Looking at the life of the late Paul Kawanga Ssemwogerere and his political life, something that Captain Francis was alluding to, that having a quality parliament, having quality leadership is very instrumental in taking Uganda from where it is right now to a brighter future and a better tomorrow in terms of socio-economic development. Now, that is what we want. Why do I bring this man's name up at such a time as this? Is because he's one who has been known to actually distinguish between his duties and character, and he has been able to say no in places of position and power so that he can do the right thing, not just by himself, but to Ugandans, beneficial to Ugandans, such as refusing to take bribes in, open daylight. And that is something that we would wish for all leaders, not just in parliament, by the way, whichever position of leadership and influence that you have as your individual. Perhaps this is a lesson to learn, and check yourself and do the better thing for tomorrow. That brings us to the end of this discussion. TechNote is going to be looking